I'm continuing my reading. What I'm doing in this series is to read through the entire standard works of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This consists of the Bible, the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. I am reading in a chronological order of events, not according to publication or volume, so I will be skipping around a bit as I move along. In fact, I have been skipping around a little bit recently, going between the books of 2 Samuel and the Psalms, sprinkling the Psalms in there. But as I move into 2 Samuel, I will be skipping around even more, as 2 Samuel and the first book of Chronicles basically tell a parallel story. And then moving beyond that, we get 1 and 2 Kings, which is parallel to 2 Chronicles, as well as the time. Most of the books of the prophets are during the time of the two books of 1 and 2 Kings. So we'll be skipping around a lot as we get into there. Right now, we are just beginning the second book of Samuel. The second book of Samuel, otherwise called the second book of the Kings. Chapter 1. David learns of death of Saul and Jonathan. He slays the Amalekite who claims to have killed Saul. David laments passing of Saul and Jonathan with a song. Now it came to pass after the death of Saul, when David was returned from the slaughter of the Amalekites, and David had abode 2 days in Ziklag, it came even to pass on the third day, that behold, a man came out of the camp from Saul with his clothes rent, and earth upon his head. And so it was, when he came to David, that he fell to the earth and did obeisance. And David said unto him, From whence comest thou? And he said unto him, Out of the camp of Israel am I escaped. And David said unto him, How went the matter? I pray thee, tell me. And he answered, That the people are fled from the battle, and many of the people also are fallen and dead, and Saul and Jonathan his son are dead also. So what we have to remember, the Philistines marched out to battle against Israel, and Saul led the Israelite army against the Philistines. David was with the Philistines but was kicked out. While they're off to battle, David has to go and rescue the people of Ziklag, because the Amalekites came in and destroyed the town of Ziklag. And so he's back in Ziklag for 2 days before he gets word of the battle, and he's now being told that Saul and Jonathan are dead. So verse 5, And David said unto the young man that told him, How knowest thou that Saul and Jonathan his son be dead? And the young man that told him said, As I happened by chance upon Mount Gilboa, behold, Saul leaned upon his spear, and lo, the chariots and horsemen followed hard after him. And when he looked behind him, he saw me, and called unto me, and I answered, Here am I. And he said unto me, Who art thou? And I answered, I am an Amalekite. And he said unto me again, Stand, I pray thee, upon me, and slay me, for anguish is come upon me, because my life is yet whole in me. So I stood upon him, and slew him, because I was sure that he could not live after that he was fallen. And I took the crown that was upon his head, and the bracelet that was on his arm, and have brought them hither unto my Lord. Then David took hold on his clothes, and rent them, and likewise all the men that were with him. And they mourned, and wept, and fasted until even, for Saul, and for Jonathan his son, and for the people of the Lord, and for the house of Israel, because they were fallen by the sword. So this is an interesting story. You'll recall at the end of 1 Samuel, Saul did ask his armor-bearer to kill him before the Philistines could torture him to death. And eventually he kills himself, and then his armor-bearer kills himself to avoid the same fate. This Amalekite, on the other hand, comes to David and says, Saul asked... He tells David Saul's dead, and when he asks, How do you know? He says, Well, Saul asked me to kill him. I met Saul. Saul was depressed. The battle was going bad. He knew he was lost, and he just wanted me to kill him so that he didn't have to go through the long, torturous death. Now David and all his men go into mourning. Now, I'm not sure that all 600 men were mourning for Saul, because many of them were discontented. A lot of them didn't really like Saul. David was definitely mourning for Saul, and everybody probably mourned for Jonathan, because he was a fairly popular guy. But they all mourned for the loss, that Israel had lost the battle. And, well, let us continue. Verse 13. And David said unto the young man that told him, Whence art thou? And he answered, I am the son of a stranger, an Amalekite. And David said unto him, How wast thou not afraid to stretch forth thine hand to destroy the Lord's anointed? And David called one of the young men and said, Go near and fall upon him. And he smote him that he died. And David said unto him, Thy blood be upon thy head, for thy mouth has testified against thee, saying, I have slain the Lord's anointed. Now you'll recall that when Saul asked his armor-bearer to kill him, his armor-bearer refused, which I kind of agree with. I don't blame Saul for wanting the quick death. Saul was already injured. He was dying. And if he had been caught by the Philistines, he would have been slowly tortured and mutilated. So, yes, Saul wanting to die, I think Saul was justified. I also think the armor-bearer was right in refusing to actually kill him. Saul needed to kill himself, which he did. The Amalekite taking credit for it seems to be saying, look what great thing I did for you. I brought you the crown. I'm making you king. And yes, I killed Saul, but he wanted to die anyways. And David saying, no, you killed the Lord's anointed. You are going to die. You have confessed to murder, therefore you have to die. I do question whether David acted a little bit rashly, a little bit hastily in this matter. Maybe he could have investigated a little bit more. But I will also say, even though the man is lying, even if David did investigate, he would have found out that the man lied, and under the law of Moses, a false witness suffers the same penalty as would have been suffered in whatever case they are lying in. So, either way, it probably is according to the law of Moses that the man be executed. But let us continue. Verse 17. And David lamented with this lamentation over Saul and over Jonathan his son. Also he bade them teach the children of Judah the use of the bow. Behold, it is written in the book of Jasher. That's an interesting little side note. That's a parenthetical there, so we'll return to that in a moment. Verse 19. The beauty of Israel is slain upon thy high places. How are the mighty fallen? Tell it not in Gath. Publish it not in the streets of Askelon. Lest the daughters of the Philistines rejoice, lest the daughters of the uncircumcised triumph. Ye mountains of Gilboa, let there be no dew, neither let there be rain upon you, nor fields of offerings, for there the shield of the mighty is vilely cast away, the shield of Saul, as though he had not been anointed with oil. From the blood of the slain, from the fat of the mighty, the bow of Jonathan turned not back, and the sword of Saul returned not empty. Saul and Jonathan were lovely and pleasant in their lives, and in their death they were not divided. They were swifter than eagles, they were stronger than lions. Ye daughters of Israel, weep over Saul, who clothed you in scarlet, with other delights, who put on ornaments of gold upon your apparel. How are the mighty fallen in the midst of the battle? O Jonathan, thou wast slain in thy high places. I am distressed for thee, my brother Jonathan. Very pleasant hast thou been unto me. Thy love to me was wonderful, passing the love of women. How are the mighty fallen, and the weapons of war perished? Nathaniel, quiet. So that is the end of that chapter. This is a great lamentation of David. Since he weeps for Saul, he doesn't even want the rain to fall on the fields. He doesn't want the dew in the mountains. But there are just a couple of things there before I get back to that historical note. Just a couple of small details. Where it says, lovely and pleasant in they were lovely and pleasant in their lives, and in their death were they not divided. This is talking about David and Saul. Not David. Jonathan and Saul fought together. They loved each other. They had a good relationship. That's what David's saying. He also mentioned, weep the daughters of Israel, who were clothed in scarlet and other delights. In other words, Saul was actually a fairly good king. He started out a very righteous man. He put down all the wickedness. He brought prosperity to the land. He unified Israel to a large extent. David would continue and finish the unification, but Saul started it, and the people actually had prosperity under Saul. He is not just this vile dictator that oppressed the people. Yes, he tried to kill David. He did kill the one town of Nob, which was definitely wrong, but for the most part, Israel had a good life under Saul. Now let's go back to that historical note real quick. He taught Judah the use of the bow. So apparently, if we take this as it stands, Judah was not known for their archery. Now, Jonathan had a bow, and he was fairly good with it. We don't know exactly how good he was, but there were those who knew archery, but it apparently was not a common thing for there to be archery units in the army of Israel, especially not from the tribe of Judah. But Saul is slain in battle by the archers of the Philistines. And so David, in response to this, trains his men to use the bow so that he has contingents of archers in his army. Not just a few archers here and there, as seems to have been the case, but he has full military units of archers. It's a nice historical note there. Now, on a final note. There are a number of people in the modern day who take this phrase, says, "Thy love to me was wonderful, passing the love of women." A lot of people in the modern day want to use this to claim that David and Jonathan were homosexual lovers. It seems to be a common theme in the modern day to assign historical figures as many sins, make them as evil and as base as possible to justify the modern wickedness. If all these great people of the past lived like this, then we are justified living like this today. It is a pile of nonsense. David is described as a man after the Lord's own heart. He was not having a homosexual affair with Jonathan. This statement refers only to their friendship. They loved each other as men, not as homosexual lovers, but as warriors who had been through hell and back together. They were the greatest of friends. Their love was more binding. Their comradeship, it's hard to describe this kind of relationship. It is a relationship forged in trials, forged in death. And to a man, especially a man of war, a soldier like David, this kind of relationship would have been cherished more than romantic relationships with women. But he was not gay. Anybody claiming that he was, I just kind of laugh at him because it is so absurdly idiotic to make that claim. But I'm going to leave that here, and I will see you in the next chapter.